What if the person sleeping next to you was plotting your murder? Thunder crashed outside the Whitmore mansion as rain lashed against the windows that night. The elegant suburban home, usually a portrait of domestic tranquility, transformed into a stage for betrayal where the lines between victim and villain blurred beyond recognition. Lightning flashed, illuminating the pristine marble floors now stained with crimson. A plan months in the making had collapsed in seconds, leaving destruction that would ripple through countless lives. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. 3 months earlier, Clara Whitmore's laugh echoed across the Charity Gala ballroom. At 38, she commanded attention in her designer gown, gracefully accepting compliments on behalf of the foundation she represented. Her husband Victor stood nearby, the successful insurance executive whose calculated investments had built their enviable lifestyle. The house in the exclusive neighborhood, the luxury cars, the tropical vacations captured in perfectly framed photos throughout their home. They're the perfect couple, guests would whisper, raising champagne flutes in their direction. They had no idea that beneath Clara's polished smile lurked a woman suffocating in her own life. No one suspected that behind closed doors, the immaculate facade crumbled. No one knew that every night, as Victor drifted to sleep beside her, Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, contemplating escape. No one could have predicted that a chance encounter with a passionate chef would ignite a forbidden affair, and ultimately, a conspiracy that would end in blood. You never truly know what happens behind closed doors, Detective Laura Hensley would later tell reporters, her eyes reflecting the weight of what she'd uncovered. This case taught me that some people will risk everything, their freedom, their dignity, even their souls, for money and passion. If you're fascinated by the psychology behind seemingly normal people who make fatal choices, hit that subscribe button now and ring the bell. True Crime Village brings you stories that will make you question everything you think you know about human nature. Like this video if you've ever wondered what dark thoughts might be hiding behind someone's smile. What turned Clara Whitmore from a respected socialite into the architect of a murder plot? How did a celebrated chef become entangled in a scheme of blood and betrayal? And how did a stormy night meant to end one life unexpectedly claim another? The answers will chill you to your core. Clara Whitmore wasn't born into wealth. She climbed there with calculated precision. At social gatherings, her practiced laugh and flawless appearance concealed a woman who felt increasingly hollow. Friends described her as always put together, yet few noticed how her eyes constantly scanned rooms for escape routes or how her smile rarely reached those eyes. Her philanthropy work wasn't just charity. It was oxygen, the only space where she felt any control. In her marriage, Clara had become invisible. The designer clothes and diamond jewelry became her armor rather than adornments. She documented their perfect life meticulously on social media while privately deleting text messages and creating secret email accounts. The contrast between her public and private selves grew wider each year. "I feel like I'm drowning in plain sight," she once confided to her only close friend. "Nobody sees me disappearing." Victor Whitmore built his insurance empire through meticulous attention to risk assessment, a skill he applied to every aspect of life. At 45, he viewed his marriage as another successful acquisition. He controlled their finances with obsessive precision, requiring Clara to justify every purchase while he made investment decisions unilaterally. His colleagues respected his business acumen while privately acknowledging his coldness. At home, Victor maintained dominance through subtle manipulation, questioning Clara's memory of conversations, dismissing her opinions as emotional, and isolating her from friends who might offer perspective. His favorite phrase, "I'm only trying to protect you." The security cameras throughout their home weren't just for protection, they were his tools for surveillance. He reviewed footage regularly, tracking Clara's movements while claiming it was just being thorough. His control extended to monitoring her phone location and setting time expectations for her errands. Elliot Grayson's hands told his story. Calloused from years of kitchen work, scarred from burns and knife slips, yet impossibly gentle when plating delicate creations. At 35, he'd earned acclaim in the culinary world, but remained trapped in prestigious kitchens owned by others. His dream, His own restaurant, where food could be art rather than production, seemed perpetually just beyond reach. Unlike the Whitmores, Elliot lived modestly in a small apartment filled with cookbooks and exotic spices. His passion extended beyond food. He collected experiences, emotions, and connections with intense hunger. When he spoke about cuisine, his entire being lit up with an authenticity that Clara found magnetic. The three orbited in the same exclusive social circles: charity events, gallery openings, elite dinner parties, where appearances mattered above all. Their world operated on unspoken rules. Problems remained private, success was displayed publicly, and marriages were business arrangements to be maintained regardless of emotional cost. Watch for these warning signs in their interactions. Clara's flinching when Victor approached her unexpectedly. Victor's habit of answering questions directed at Clara. Elliot's intense gaze following Clara across rooms. Clara checking her phone anxiously when messages arrived. The way Victor's fingers dug into Clara's arm when guiding her through crowds. How Clara and Elliot maintained careful distance yet somehow always ended up in the same conversations. The gradual increase in Clara's secret behaviors. Hushed phone calls, unexplained absences, changing passwords. These subtle signals formed the foundation of what would become a deadly triangle of desperation, control, and desire. The Spring Foundation Gala became the flashpoint that changed everything. Clara stood near the dessert table, glass of champagne in hand, when she first tasted Elliot's signature dish, a deconstructed chocolate creation that melted on her tongue and made her close her eyes involuntarily. "That reaction is why I cook," a voice said beside her. She opened her eyes to find Elliot watching her, his chef's coat unbuttoned at the collar, revealing a glimpse of tattoo. Unlike the polished executives who populated Victor's world, Elliot exuded raw authenticity. Their conversation began about flavor profiles but quickly veered into deeper waters. Dreams deferred, passions suppressed, lives unlived. "You understand," Clara whispered, more statement than question. Their first real meeting occurred 3 days later, a chance encounter at a farmer's market that both had carefully engineered. Coffee led to walks, walks led to hidden restaurant meetings, and within weeks, they were stealing moments in the private kitchen after hours, where Elliot would cook exclusively for her while sharing stories of his culinary journeys through Europe and Asia. "No one has ever really seen me before," Clara told him as they sat surrounded by gleaming copper pots and the scent of herbs. "You actually look at me when I speak." The psychology of affairs follows predictable patterns. For Clara, Elliot represented everything missing from her marriage: passion, recognition, and possibility. The chemical cocktail of dopamine and adrenaline created an addiction more powerful than reason. Each secret meeting, each forbidden touch, each whispered plan fueled the intoxicating sense that they were writing their own rules. For Elliot, Clara embodied both rescue and validation, proof that his passion could be recognized beyond the plate. The forbidden nature of their connection only heightened its intensity, creating an emotional pressure cooker. Have you ever found yourself wondering if stability matters more than passion? Have you sacrificed your dreams for security only to question that choice years later? Have you ever looked at your partner and wondered when they stopped seeing the real you? Clara and Elliot convinced themselves their connection transcended ordinary morality. Their texts escalated from innocent to intimate to increasingly desperate. They created elaborate systems to communicate. Disposable phones, coded messages through social media comments, restaurant reservation names that signaled meeting times. "When can we stop hiding?" became Elliot's constant question. "Soon," became Clara's constant answer. But what transforms a simple affair into a deadly conspiracy? For most people, affairs end in tearful confessions or quiet dissolutions. Most betrayed spouses never know the true extent of their partner's deception. Most lovers eventually face reality and move on. What pushed Clara and Elliot beyond this boundary into murderous territory wasn't love. It was money, $2 million of it. Rain pelted the windows of Elliot's apartment on the night everything changed. Clara had arrived soaked and agitated after another fight with Victor. A bottle of Cabernet later, their usual complaints about her controlling husband shifted into darker territory. He updated his will again, Clara said, twirling the wine in her glass. Everything goes to his sister if I die first. But if he dies... She let the sentence hang. Elliot refilled their glasses. How much? $2 million in life insurance alone. Her voice remained steady, clinical. He believes in being prepared. The words floated between them before solidifying into something tangible. Neither could later recall who spoke it first. What if Victor was gone? He controls everything. The house, the accounts, my schedule, Clara whispered. I'd be free. We'd be free. By dawn, what began as wine-fueled fantasy had crystallized into a plan. In the harsh morning light, rather than recoiling from the idea, they began refining it. Over the next 3 months, Clara launched a calculated campaign on Victor. Playing the devoted wife concerned about family security, she convinced him to increase his life insurance policy. What if something happened to you? She asked over dinner one evening. Your sister wouldn't take care of me the way you do. Victor, ever the insurance expert, saw the logical argument and adjusted his coverage. Clara masked her triumph behind grateful tears and rewarded him with rare physical affection that night. It was the first time she'd initiated intimacy in years. Meanwhile, Elliot faced financial reality. His restaurant dreams required capital that remained frustratingly elusive through legitimate channels. His latest loan application had been rejected that morning. $2 million would build the restaurant and secure our future, he told Clara during a stolen lunch. No more working for others. No more hiding. The plan required a third party, someone to execute the deed while they maintained perfect alibis. Elliot reluctantly contacted Marcus Reeves, a former line cook with connections to his past. Marcus had served 4 years for armed robbery, emerging from prison to find doors closed and opportunities scarce. At 40, his face carried the weathered look of someone who'd seen too much hardship. His hands shook slightly, a detail Elliot noticed but ignored. 20%. That's $400,000, Elliot offered during their meeting in a deserted parking garage. Enough to disappear somewhere warm forever. Marcus hesitated but ultimately agreed. His parole officer had threatened to report his missed appointments. His rent was 3 months behind. His options had dwindled to nearly nothing. The trio met only twice in remote locations, establishing their strategy. Clara provided detailed information about the house layout, security codes, and Victor's habits. Elliot created the timeline. Marcus would stage a home invasion during a severe thunderstorm forecast for the following month, when alarm systems often malfunctioned. Make it look random, Clara instructed. Take jewelry, cash from the safe. The combination is our anniversary, Victor's pathetic attempt at romance. The planning documents were kept on an encrypted flash drive, along with falsified passports Clara had procured through contacts from her charity network. Elliot researched countries without extradition treaties. Clara began quietly converting jewelry to cash. Marcus practiced the route to and from the Whitmore home, identifying surveillance cameras to avoid. They accounted for every variable except human nature, and the chaos that inevitably follows the best-laid plans. What do you think was their fatal mistake? Was it trusting Marcus? The storm's intensity? Or something more fundamental about human psychology when faced with violence? Comment below with your theories about where this seemingly perfect plan went catastrophically wrong. As the chosen date approached, warning signs appeared that all 3 conspirators missed or ignored. Marcus's increasing alcohol consumption, Clara's sudden panic attacks, Elliot's uncharacteristic mistakes in the kitchen, Victor's unexpected schedule changes. The storm was coming, both literally and figuratively, and none of them were truly prepared for what would happen next. 10:15 p.m. The weather forecast had promised a storm, but what descended upon the city that night was something more ferocious. A howling tempest that cut power to 3 neighborhoods and flooded streets within hours. At the Whitmore residence, raindrops struck windows like bullets as Clara checked her phone one final time. A text from Elliot. In position. 10:32 p.m. Marcus parked 6 blocks away, pulling his hood tight against the downpour. His hands trembled, Not from the cold, but from the cocktail of fear and prescription anxiety medication he'd taken 30 minutes earlier. The knife in his pocket felt impossibly heavy. 10:47 p.m. Clara moved through her evening routine with mechanical precision. She prepared herbal tea for Victor, who worked in his study reviewing quarterly projections. Her fingers hovered briefly over the sleeping pills before deciding against them. Too risky, Elliot had warned. Any toxicology report would find them. Instead, she relied on Victor's habit of deep sleep during storms. 11:03 p.m. In a nondescript sedan parked at the agreed lookout point, Elliot watched rain cascade down his windshield, distorting the streetlights into fluid gold streaks. His phone displayed the weather radar. The storm's peak would hit in approximately 40 minutes, coinciding with their planned timing. 11:21 p.m. Victor closed his laptop and stretched, bones cracking in the quiet house. The security system beeped softly, a momentary power fluctuation from the storm. He made his routine check of the house. Doors locked, alarm reset, security cameras active. 11:38 p.m. Clara lay in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling, counting heartbeats. The sound of Victor brushing his teeth in their ensuite bathroom provided familiar background noise to her racing thoughts. Last night, she whispered to herself. Last night in this prison. 11:42 p.m. Marcus approached the house from the rear garden path, rain masking his footsteps. The security camera near the kitchen door cycled every 62 seconds, leaving a 3-second blind spot, information Clara had meticulously documented. He slipped through this window of opportunity, using the electronic key fob Clara had provided. His shoes left mud on the immaculate tile floor. 11:49 p.m. Victor climbed into bed, kissed Clara's forehead perfunctorily, and turned away. Within minutes, his breathing slowed. Clara waited, counting to 300 as planned, before carefully sliding from beneath the covers. 11:54 p.m. Lightning struck a transformer 3 blocks away, plunging the neighborhood into darkness. The Whitmore's generator kicked in automatically, but the momentary blackout reset several security features, exactly as predicted. 11:58 p.m. Clara descended the stairs silently, her message to Marcus sent, bedroom, west wing, second door. Her part was complete. She would now retreat to the guest bathroom downstairs, her alibi location for the night's events. 12:03 a.m. The unexpected happened. Victor, a notoriously sound sleeper, woke suddenly. Perhaps from a dream, perhaps from the thunder. He noticed Clara's absence, unusual during storms that typically frightened her. 12:04 a.m. Marcus moved through the darkened hallway, counting doors as instructed. The knife gripped tightly in his gloved hand caught a reflection from lightning through a window. He failed to notice the mud trail he continued to leave. 12:06 a.m. Victor, now alert, heard an unfamiliar sound from the hallway. Instead of calling out or reaching for his phone, he opened his bedside drawer and removed his handgun, a security measure he'd never told Clara about. 12:07 a.m. Clara, hearing footsteps on the stairs, assumed Marcus was proceeding to the master bedroom. She ducked into the guest bathroom as planned. 12:08 a.m. What followed collapsed into chaotic fragments. Victor confronted Marcus in the hallway, the gun aimed at Marcus's chest. Marcus lunged forward in panic rather than retreat. Clara, hearing the commotion, emerged from the bathroom at precisely the wrong moment.
12:09 nachts.
3 bodies in motion, a knife slashing wildly, a gun discharging, a woman's scream cut short, blood splattered across cream-colored walls. 12:11 a.m. Elliot, hearing nothing through the rainfall, checked his watch anxiously. No text update from either conspirator. According to their timeline, Victor should be dead by now. Clara should be calling emergency services, hysterical about a home invasion gone wrong. 12:14 a.m. Victor, bleeding from his arm, fumbled for his phone while keeping pressure on Clara's wound. Her eyes stared up at him in shock, not just from the physical trauma but from the irony. The knife meant for him had found her instead during the struggle. 12:17 a.m. Elliot, increasingly anxious, abandoned the car and approached the house on foot. Through a gap in the living room curtains, he witnessed the scene. Clara on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. Victor pressing a towel to her chest. Marcus nowhere visible. 12:19 a.m. The realization hit Elliot like physical force. The plan had collapsed catastrophically. As sirens wailed in the distance, he backed away, then turned and ran through the torrential rain, each step taking him further from the woman he loved and the dream they'd killed for. 12:26 a.m. Clara Whitmore was pronounced dead at the scene by first responders. Her final words a confession that would eventually destroy all three men connected to her. "Tell Elliot I'm sorry." Detective Laura Hensley arrived at the Whitmore residence as dawn broke through the remnants of the storm. 42, with 15 years in homicide, she'd developed a reputation for catching details others missed. Her notebook filled rapidly as she surveyed the scene. The blood patterns inconsistent with Victor's statement, the odd positioning of furniture, the muddy footprints leading in but not out. "Something's wrong with this picture," she told her partner as the coroner removed Clara's body. Home invasions don't typically target specific individuals. They grab valuables and run. The first 48 hours yielded contradictions. Victor claimed he'd confronted a masked intruder who had specifically attacked his wife before fleeing. Yet nothing valuable was taken. The security system showed no forced entry. And most puzzling, Clara's dying words, "Tell Elliot I'm sorry." Who's Elliot? Hensley asked Victor in their second interview. "I have no idea," he replied, his grief appearing genuine. Hensley's breakthrough came from Clara's phone records. Despite deletion attempts, digital forensics recovered text exchanges with an EG that spanned months. The messages evolved from innocent to intimate to increasingly desperate. Restaurant staff identified Elliot Grayson from photos. His fingerprints matched several found in the Whitmore home, in places a caterer would never access. More damning, security footage showed his car parked near the Whitmore residence on multiple occasions, including the night of the murder. Meanwhile, blood evidence at the scene didn't match only Clara and Victor. A third DNA profile led police to Marcus Reeves, apprehended at a bus station with a knife wound and $10,000 cash. Marcus broke during his third hour of interrogation. "It wasn't supposed to be her," he repeated, rocking back and forth. "She wasn't supposed to be there. It was him. It was always supposed to be him." His confession implicated both Elliot and Clara in a conspiracy to murder Victor for insurance money. Digital evidence backed his claims. Encrypted files on Clara's hidden laptop detailed the plot, Victor's insurance policies, and offshore accounts established for the aftermath. Hensley personally arrested Elliot at the airport, passport in hand, ticket purchased for a non-extradition country. "She loved you," Hensley told him during questioning. "Her last words were about you." Elliot's composure crumbled. "We were going to build something beautiful," he whispered. "Nobody was supposed to get hurt." Phone records, financial transactions, and witness statements corroborated the conspiracy. The case appeared resolved, the narrative complete. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The county courthouse filled beyond capacity each day of what journalists dubbed the betrayal murder trial. Local networks broadcast proceedings live as the case captivated public attention. On day 3, gasps echoed through the courtroom when prosecutors revealed a hidden recording from Clara's laptop, a video she'd made 2 weeks before her death. "If anything happens to me," her voice rang clearly through courtroom speakers. "It wasn't Victor. I've made terrible mistakes." The recording continued with Clara describing her fear that the plan was spinning beyond her control, but her determination to see it through, a haunting message from beyond the grave. Elliot Grayson took the stand on day 7, his chef's hands now cuffed, his face gaunt from months in detention. His testimony began as calculated self-preservation but dissolved into raw confession. "I loved her," he repeated, looking directly at Victor. "She was trapped. You never saw who she really was. And that justified plotting my murder." Victor asked from his seat, breaking courtroom protocol. The judge allowed the exchange as Elliot broke down. We just wanted freedom, a chance to live without constraints. The money was just a means. Victor Whitmore testified last, walking slowly to the stand, his right arm still in a sling from his wounds. Once commanding and confident, he now appeared hollow, a man whose entire reality had collapsed. I still reach for her in my sleep, he told the silent courtroom. I wake up thinking I need to tell her something, before remembering she died planning my death. Medical records presented during trial revealed Victor had been secretly battling early-stage lymphoma, information he'd kept from Clara, planning to tell her after completing his updated will and insurance policies. I was preparing to care for her after I was gone, he testified, while she was preparing to eliminate me. The jury deliberated just 4 hours before returning guilty verdicts. Marcus Reeves received 25 years for second-degree murder and conspiracy. Elliot Grayson received life without parole for first-degree conspiracy to commit murder and accessory to murder. As bailiffs led Elliot away, he turned toward Victor. She wasn't who you thought she was. Neither of us knew her completely. Detective Hensley watched from the gallery, her case file closed but her mind still troubled by the case's implications. We investigate murders every day, she later told a criminology class she guest lectured. Strangers killing strangers. Gang violence. Drug deals gone wrong. But the calculated decision to murder someone you once loved enough to marry? That requires a psychological compartmentalization most people aren't capable of. The case's impact extended far beyond the principals. Clara's charity foundation collapsed amid the scandal. Victor sold their home at a loss and disappeared from public life, eventually relocating overseas. The restaurant where Elliot had worked closed after business plummeted. Marcus's elderly mother lost her home, unable to pay rent without her son's support. Clara's best friend, the only person who'd heard her complaints about her marriage, began drinking heavily, tormented by the question of whether she could have prevented the tragedy by reporting Clara's increasingly dark comments. Nobody wins in a case like this, Hensley noted in her final report. When betrayal becomes deadly, the casualties extend far beyond the immediate crime scene. The Whitmore case reveals a fundamental truth about human nature. The line between ordinary citizens and criminals isn't as clear as we prefer to believe. What transformed Clara from a respected socialite to conspiracy architect wasn't some inherent evil. It was incremental moral compromises that accumulated over time. Psychologists who studied the case identified 3 critical factors that create perfect conditions for deadly decisions. First, rationalization. Clara and Elliot convinced themselves Victor deserved his fate because he was controlling, reframing murder as liberation rather than crime. Second, compartmentalization. The ability to separate one's identity as a loving partner from one's actions as a conspirator, allowing contradictory behaviors to exist simultaneously. Third, escalation. What began as fantasy became discussion, then planning, then action, each step making the next seem less extreme. Most people believe they could never commit such acts, forensic psychologist Dr. Madison explains. This certainty is precisely what makes us vulnerable to gradual moral drift. The ultimate price? 5 lives destroyed. Clara dead, Victor emotionally shattered, Elliot and Marcus imprisoned, and an innocent victim, Clara's mother, who died from stress-induced heart failure after learning of her daughter's crimes. If the story affected you, please hit like and share with someone who appreciates true crime stories with real lessons. Your engagement helps us continue bringing these cautionary tales to light. Next week on True Crime Village, The Babysitter's Secret. When a family installed nanny cams in their home, they never expected to uncover a 20-year mystery involving 3 states and multiple identities. Remember, trust isn't just given. It's a responsibility held by both parties. When that delicate balance breaks, the consequences can be fatal.